persistent. To what depths, what danger would you go to escape slavery? In the case of American hero Henry Box Brown, he mailed himself to freedom, by George. Yes, in a small box. He put himself in a box in coordination with assistance coming from Philadelphia. He put himself in a small box and he was shipped via cargo ship and other means to Philadelphia, to freedom. And this is after he witnessed his children being sold at an auction, his wife as well, and having nothing pretty much else to live for in the South. You know what? You got to make a decision in life. You're going to stand for something, baby. You're going to fall for anything. This guy right here, well, unfortunately, he did sit for a great while, but he mailed himself to freedom, abolitionist, and he told his story over the course of the next several years of his life. Once upon a time, I had the awesome opportunity to visit Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and I couldn't help but just marvel at the architecture, the ingenuity, the intellectual contributions of many scientists in the construction of one of the world's most famous capitals with its historic buildings. One of the greatest contributors to that, African-American hero Benjamin Banneker, one of my favorite scientists, regardless of color, African-American, in a time of servitude, in time of slavery. Now, he was a contemporary of George Washington, the father of our country. And baby, one thing I love about him was his gift of gab and the pen, baby. He wrote a scathing letter to eventual President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, pretty much outlining the fact that he was a hypocrite, and said, you know what? I'm an intellectual just as much as you. And you know, despite color, I can do great things. Wrote him a scathing letter. Look it up if you don't believe me. But Benjamin Banneker, great American hero. Black history is American history, baby. Someone once said that necessity is the mother of all invention. You doggone right. In the case of American heroine, Mary McLeod Bethune, you know what? She wasn't extremely satisfied with the institution of education for African Americans. So what does she do? An educator herself, she takes her ball and goes home to Daytona, Florida, baby, where she started a school for African Americans. Now, here to get what they deserve, equity, equality. All right. Now, the one thing that I absolutely admire about her is her sense of diplomacy, her sense of politicizing, and also getting to know people of influence that could help her, but also being just very authentic and genuine in her pursuits. She pursued a relationship with the Roosevelts of presidential nature in the early 30s and 40s. Now, I will tell you that she had a great friendship with Eleanor Roosevelt, and she was actually named to the National Youth Administration by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Pioneer in American history, because Black history is American history, contributing to the NAACP and the advancement of African Americans' fight for civil rights, graduating first in his class from Howard Law University, and becoming, when President Lyndon B. Johnson nominated him as the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, none other than my boy Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall was the man, contributing to the Brown versus the Board of Education landmark case as a lawyer, which he fought for equity, equality for students. That, you know what, the United States Constitution makes no provision for second-class citizenship, and he knew that. He checked it, wrecked it, blew it away. Pioneer! Light that is needed, the fire. It's not the gentle shower, but thunder. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. Who am I talking about? None other than one of my favorite American heroes. This is Black History Month, but Black history's American history. Let's talk about it. Frederick Douglass, author. You know, he was an abolitionist, a suffragette, and an orator. He greatly spoke out in his emancipation when he freed himself by running away in Maryland from the institution of slavery into freedom. And his autobiography that he published was so renowned and so well received, not necessarily in the United States at first, but overseas in England, that Europeans actually took note of the fact of the depravity and the depraved conditions of the institution of slavery in the United States that had long been abolished in England many years before the Emancipation Proclamation eventually did in the United States. But Frederick Douglass, American pioneer, American hero.